if the government does what it's supposed to do, come up with a new telecom policy that addresses the clear dysfunctionalities in the telecom sector, and there are many, the clear problems in the TRAI and the functioning of the TRAI with amendments of the TRAI Act. If the government does these two things, that along with the Supreme Court decision today will give investors a tremendous degree of confidence, because this inglorious chapter of the last 2 years, 3 years, or maybe even 5 years can be put behind us if the government sets up the rules of the game in a very transparent, with a consistent public policy framework, and with an independent regulatory system that really is functional, as opposed to being a parking spot for favorite bureaucrats of ministers. If the government does this, this sector can attract billions of dollars of investment. It has done so in the past, and it can do so again. But it needs for the government to stop spinning and start doing some real work by getting this new telecom policy out, by amending the TRAI Act, and essentially moving to a regime of only auctioning spectrum. If they do that, this will be a great sector in the coming months and years.
Let me bring in Jaideep Ghosh from KPMG. Does this verdict send out a negative message to foreign companies looking to invest in India, that your investments are not safe even after several years of making them?
See, I think this is just one sector, and in terms of the Indian economy, it comprises several other sectors. In the recent past, we have seen even the retail sector, there has been issue linked to the FDI perspective. So I think in the short term, yes, from a telecom perspective, it may give out certain, concern signals to the foreign investment community. That's one. From overall country perspective, I think, sooner or later, the overall policy, different sectors, etc., that would kind of determine in terms of what is the perception of India from FDI perspective. That's the second point. Third point, for specific telecom players who still would like to look at India as a market and make fresh investments, though I would really be curious to know who those are and on what time frame and with what business plans they would like to enter India at this point of time. Having seen that the new operators in the last 3 years haven't really done anything spectacular. So for new investors, FDI in telecom sector, I think they would be fairly cautious and take it, as and when the regulatory
because the government is also giving the spin, Sandeep, that this decision is bad for customers, because if there is a fresh auction, naturally telecom companies will pay top dollar for that spectrum, which means that they will charge more from the customer. So this whole business of low-cost telecom services could well be over.
But Rahul, we are again moving away from the real subject. The real subject is that it's a slam dunk judgment on something that was illegal. And what was illegal? A government policy which has now clearly been defined as illegal and malified.
And unconstitutional.
How was this allowed to be done? That is the crucial question. And I'll address your question as well. 540 megahertz, all told, was given away on a first-come, first-served basis to 123 licensees, 9 operators. Now, when you do your math, it works out to 9,000 odd crores, which means that each single megahertz was given away for approximately 16 crores. 2 years later, we do a fast forward, we come to the 3G auction, the template of which was put in place by the same Mr. Chidambaram as the finance minister. We conduct an auction. It goes swimmingly well. Government realizes 69,000 crores by auctioning 385 megahertz at, you do your math, it works out to approximately 180 crores per megahertz.
More than 10 times.
10 times. But between this, there is another figure which I just spoke about, which is the finance ministry on Feb 11, 2008, 31 days after the event, on Jan 10, submits a proposal after consulting DOT, mind you, to the finance minister. And in that, it gives its formula. And it says that 1,370 odd crores, I don't remember the figure exactly, should be charged for every megahertz, and you should price spectrum, which works out to 6,500 crores.
No, so let me put that question to Rajeev Chandrasekhar. Will customers, as a consequence of the Supreme Court verdicts, have to pay more? Right now, telecom rates are amongst the lowest in the world. There's a concern that if there's a fresh auction, companies will spend more and they'll ultimately recover that money from the customer.
Rahul, I don't know if you're aware of this, and I did a report card on Kapil Sibal in the last parliament session.
That's right.
Prices in telecoms, in cellular, have gone up by almost 20% in the last 12 months. So services haven't become affordable. And to take Sandeep's point, the existing operators only have 6% market share, and therefore they are not they're not making a meaningful impact on the competitive landscape. The big operators are becoming bigger, and they are resetting prices, and they're increasing prices with the regulator sitting by idly. So the consumer benefit argument, which that should be the main point of any public policy of the government of India, can only be addressed if the regulator wakes up and starts doing things proactively in ensuring meaningful competition and sustainable competition. Prices have been going up, whether we've noticed it or not, for the last 1 year. And if these 122 licenses are not auctioned very quickly, you will essentially be taking out 122 licenses out of the market, reducing competition even further, and making the existing large operators stronger, and therefore playing a significant role in determining prices, and therefore prices will go up. Now, the answer for that is very simple. The government must auction these licenses quickly, must not sit on these licenses, and get new competition in it so that competition continues.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, maybe your apprehensions are perhaps not realistic. Why? Because the Supreme Court judgment has clearly put out a timeline. It's a TRAI, get your act together in 2 months. Government, get your act together the next 2 months. So within the next 4 months, you're supposed to put together a new system, a new architecture. Does that yes?
If you use the same methodology that I just explained, 180 crore for 540 megahertz. If you do an auction today at 2010 prices, you will realize 96,000 crores today.
Good for the fiscal deficit. Good for Mr. Pranab Mukherjee.
Absolutely. But also it tells you what was the game plan? What was the game plan? The game plan was to break the back of the cartel which Rajeev Chandrasekhar just referred to. A. Raja wanted to break the back of a cartel. The cartel, according to him, was, and I've tracked this, was a handful of powerful operators, Airtel, Vodafone, Reliance, etc. He wanted to break the back of this cartel. How did he plan to break this back? He decided, I will give you first come, first served licenses. Come one, come all. Crony capitalism at its best, and we will break the back of this cartel. What has happened instead?
Just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
Rajeev Chandrasekhar wants to respond to what Paranjoy just said.
No, I was making the point, Paranjoy. Paranjoy, I understand that point, but it is not clear from my reading of the judgment, and maybe I have not read it as in detail as you, whether the auction specifically mandates new operators, or it can be also auctioned to an existing operator in the same market.
I don't think that's clear.
In which case you have existing operators all. Yeah, it's not clear.
Operator will also be.
I think that there is a process of negotiation which has to be put out by the TRAI. The onus is now on the TRAI to work out the modalities. That's my understanding.
We've spoken so far about the political fallout. We've spoken about what this means for customers and for companies. In the concluding part of our debate, I want to shift our attention to what happens from here. And I want to put that question first to Paranjoy Thakur. The trial court on Saturday will rule on P. Chidambaram. That's the big one. And the sense that Subramaniam Swamy and others seem to have is that Chidambaram's days are numbered. He's only got 48 hours in government.
No, one can't second guess what Justice Saini will say. But let's assume that Justice Saini says that the CBI should investigate Mr. Chidambaram's role. Now, if that indeed happens, I'm going by what Mr. Chidambaram himself has said, then he should put in his papers. And if he puts in his papers, then the fingers start pointing at the Prime Minister himself. Now, whether that will happen or not, I don't know. As the old saying goes, a week is a very, very long time in politics, you know. I mean, the next 3 days might be very, very crucial for all you know. The Justice Saini may not, he has more than this Saturday to...
But Paranjoy, it is not merely about investigating Chidambaram. The case in the trial court is making Mr. Chidambaram a co-accused in this
Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
So there is a huge difference between being investigated by the CBI and being made a co-accused in the trial. Remember, what the Supreme Court has done very smartly is, it has simply lobbed the ball to Judge Saini.
Yeah,
Judge O.P. Saini is the man who's trying this case. The court has said, these licenses were illegal, they were unconstitutional, they were given out in an arbitrary manner. That chapter is closed. I, as Judge Saini, now need to convict all these guys because criminality has been established. The Supreme Court has told you that whatever transpired on that day was illegal and malified. So my next decision as Judge Saini